A fire broke out in the military family housing compound. Emily and Chloe, the female doctor who had been taking care of Emily's husband, were trapped in the blaze at the same time. Emily was just about to call for help when she heard her husband, David, giving orders outside. "Emily is a military spouse," he commanded. "She has the necessary dedication and is willing to sacrifice her own life. Right now, everyone must focus all efforts on rescuing Chloe." It was then that Emily realized David had also been reborn. In their previous life, Emily had told him she was 2 months pregnant. After a moment of hesitation, he had chosen to save her first. Because of that choice, Chloe had perished in the flames. At the time, David had shown no reaction to Chloe's death and had devoted himself entirely to taking care of Emily and their daughter. It wasn't until 20 years later that he intentionally crashed his car to die right alongside Emily, saying, "Emily, saving you first is the biggest regret of my life." Watching David charge into the inferno to save Chloe with red-rimmed eyes, Emily gently touched her lower abdomen and allowed the flames to engulf her. "Baby, we don't need a father in this life," she thought to herself. Scalding thick smoke rolled in, and unable to hold on any longer, Emily collapsed to her knees. The fire immediately surrounded her. Just a wall away, David shot her a cold, indifferent glance before instantly carrying Chloe on his back and walking away without looking back. In that moment, she was certain that he, just like her, had been reborn. Hey guys, what would you do if your husband left you and your unborn baby in a deadly fire? Let's see how Emily turns this ultimate betrayal into an epic comeback. To make up for the regret of not saving Chloe, this time, he chose to abandon Emily and the 2-month-old daughter in her womb. "Commander, the fire is too intense. We can't charge in." Chaotic voices echoed from outside. "Everyone, listen to my orders and retreat immediately," David replied with absolute calm. "The plan to rescue Dr. Chloe is complete. As for Emily, she has the dedication to sacrifice herself." Emily's heart violently trembled. In this lifetime, he actually preferred that she die in the fire. Relying purely on willpower, Emily crawled up from the floor. Using the memories from her past life, she located an escape hatch that was already surrounded by the raging fire. She held her breath, fought through the agonizing pain of her burned legs, draped a torn, water-soaked towel over herself, and braced her heart to dash through. If only for her daughter's sake, she absolutely could not die in this life. She didn't know how long she ran until, completely exhausted and her limbs screaming in agony, she collapsed to the ground. "Quick, save her. Emily is still alive. Water, get water." Basins of cold water were poured over her body, and her consciousness and senses slowly began to return. "Hurry, get her onto the stretcher and into the vehicle." Several hands haphazardly lifted her and rushed her toward the waiting transport. However, David stepped in and pushed Chloe into the vehicle first. "Dr. Chloe is injured," he said with utter indifference, insisting on sending her to the hospital first. "The rest of you can wait." But Emily's injuries are much more severe. "Dr. Chloe just has a sprained ankle," someone protested. "Are my orders no longer orders?" David interrupted roughly. "Why do you care about her? She's not going to die." With that, he turned, climbed into the ambulance, and left with Chloe. The sympathetic gazes of the bystanders fell upon Emily. A kind-hearted person couldn't bear to watch anymore and volunteered to drive her to the hospital in their own car. Emily lay in a coma at the hospital for 3 full days and nights. During that time, David never showed up once. It wasn't until the hospital issued over a dozen payment notices demanding the hospitalization fees, and she begged someone to find David to pay the bill, that he finally condescended to visit her on the 5th day. Chloe came along with him. Having been rescued first in this life, Chloe didn't have a single burn mark on her body. Even her sprained ankle had already fully healed. She was holding several boxes of expensive health supplements and wearing a brand new dress. Emily recognized that Dresset was a high-end item from the import store that she had never been able to bring herself to buy. A single dress like that would cost half a year of her salary. "Where is the money?" Emily struggled to speak. The thick smoke had burned her trachea and esophagus. Now, every breath she took and every bite of food she ate was pure torture. David's face instantly turned ice cold. "What? I spent some money to help Dr. Chloe recover her health, and you're already throwing a fit over it? You just had to send someone to make a scene right in front of me?" Emily weakly gripped the bedsheet. The pain radiating from her wounds made Emily unable to hold back a muffled groan. "Stop pretending. You're not going to die," David sneered. Chloe, carrying the nutritional supplements, walked up to Emily with a smug smile on her face. "What a pity. David bought all these supplements specifically for me, so they aren't suitable for you. However, I'm about to move in right next door to you guys." She curled her lips upward. "This was also David's idea. It'll make it convenient for me to take good care of his health, and I can look after you in passing." Emily abruptly looked at David. He placed both hands on Chloe's shoulders, his eyes full of doting affection. "It's already been decided. Pick a good day to move in," he said. The family housing compound on the base was strictly assigned to married officers. To be able to arrange for a single woman like Chloe to live next door, it was obvious how much effort David had put in. He was determined to make up for the regret of losing Chloe in the past. Emily forced a bitter smile. "Is it to take care of me, or to make it convenient for the two of you to date and meet up?" David froze for a moment. Once he processed her words, he immediately shielded Chloe behind him. "She is my doctor," he said through gritted teeth. "Put away your filthy thoughts. Chloe and I have a pure camaraderie." In their previous life, Emily had believed this excuse, naively thinking that he just liked to look out for Chloe's well-being. Yet, he had regretted Chloe's death for 20 whole years, wishing he could trade Emily's life for hers. Seeing Emily remain silent, David lost his patience. He grabbed Chloe by the wrist and walked straight out of the hospital room, refusing to spare Emily another glance. From then on, he never came to see her again. On the day she was discharged, a heavy snowstorm began to fall outside. With no one to pick her up, Emily had no choice but to borrow a pair of crutches and prepare to walk home. Just as she reached the hospital gates, a young soldier blocked her path. "Ma'am, are you being discharged today?" he asked. Emily nodded. "Yes. Commander David sent me," he said with a cheerful smile. "The commander is helping Dr. Chloe move today. He asked me to let you know to stop by the market on your way home, to buy some good groceries, so you can cook a housewarming dinner for Dr. Chloe." Emily froze in place. So he knew she was being discharged today, yet he still chose to go help Chloe move. She forced a bitter smile and slowly started the trek back on her crutches. The snowstorm was too severe. It took her an entire day to walk the several-mile journey, barely managing to make it back home. Seeing her return, David's face darkened. "Are you targeting Chloe? I told you to buy groceries, but you deliberately loitered outside just to make her wait a whole day for nothing. What are you playing at? Do you really think I don't know?" "Don't blame Emily," Chloe said, placing her hand on his arm, her eyes full of grievance. "Blame me for not being prepared. It's my fault. It has nothing to do with her." "It's her who has ulterior motives," David said, turning his head to comfort Chloe, his eyes brimming with tenderness. "I can't let you be wrong today. I'll take you out to a restaurant." The corners of Chloe's mouth turned up as she immediately shot Emily a smug look. Frozen to the bone, Emily was in no mood to entertain her deliberate provocation. Holding on to her last shred of energy, she dragged herself inside, wrapped herself tightly in a heavy quilt, and fell into a dazed sleep. She didn't know how long she had slept when she was awakened by the sound of hurried footsteps. It was David's voice. Emily instinctively got out of bed to open the door for him. He often forgot his keys, and after years of marriage, getting up in the middle of the night to open the door for him had been written into her muscle memory. She struggled to shuffle to the entrance and open the door just a crack, but the sight before her made the blood freeze in her veins. A drunk David had pulled Chloe tightly into his arms. "Let me hold you a little longer. I can't bear to let you go," he murmured. Chloe submissively nestled into his embrace. "Look at you. You'll be able to see me every day from now on. Wherever you go, I'll go. I'll stick with you forever, okay? You can't take that back." David pressed a deep kiss to her forehead, recklessly pouring out the suppressed longing he had harbored for 20 years. Emily silently closed the door. A wave of nausea surged up her throat. She ran to the bathroom, unable to suppress her morning sickness and dry heaving. "Just wait a little longer, baby," she comforted, gently stroking her lower abdomen. "Once Mommy gets her strength back, I'll take you away." She didn't know how much time had passed when David finally returned, reeking of perfume. Seeing that Emily hadn't waited up for him but had gone to bed early, a flicker of surprise flashed in his eyes. "I'll be working overtime a lot from now on," he said coldly. "Don't bother me unless it's important." "But I'm pregnant," she replied. "Then you just stay at home and focus on your pregnancy," David retorted, his disgust deepening. "Don't try to use the child to tie me down." Bitterness swelled in Emily's heart. In her previous life, she hadn't realized until the day she died that he had always hated her. Revealing her pregnancy during the fire had forced him, in front of all those people, to save her first. He believed she had deliberately used the baby to force him into abandoning Chloe. That was why, in this lifetime, he had acted before she could even speak, immediately ordering everyone to save Chloe instead. Emily was in no mood to dwell on his disgust. She silently calculated the time she had left before leaving. 5 more months. In 5 months, she would take the National College Entrance Exam as an independent candidate. In her past life, she had performed poorly on the test and only made it into a mediocre college, which had become a lifelong regret. Since heaven had given her a second chance, this time, she wanted to aim for an Ivy League university. David didn't notice anything amiss. His absence from home actually made things easier for her. She could study in peace while nursing her body. The 5 months flew by. Emily's belly grew large and prominent, and the baby's movements became more frequent. Her husband, who had been ignoring her and choosing to spend his nights at Chloe's house, suddenly came home a week before the exam. He brought nutritional supplements and toys. "I've made an appointment with a doctor from the city," David said, pursing his thin lips. "While you have the time, go get some massage therapy. It can help ease your labor pains." Emily was genuinely surprised that he actually remembered. In their previous life, she had endured a difficult labor when giving birth to their daughter and nearly died on the operating table. Her heart ached immensely. "Even if he doesn't love me, at least he still loves our daughter," she thought. "Okay, I'll go," she agreed. The next day, she arrived early at the community hospital. While waiting in line, Mrs. Miller from the family housing compound squeezed her way over. "David's wife, I heard you sold your exam registration spot?" Mrs. Miller asked. "Other people have sold theirs too. A good spot can fetch up to $1,000. How much did you get for yours?" Emily's mind went completely blank with a loud buzz. The family compound had only been allocated one independent candidate spot. She had worked incredibly hard to score first place in the preliminaries, just to earn that qualification. How could she possibly sell it so easily? "I didn't sell it. How did you know about this?" she asked in a panic. Mrs. Miller looked confused. "Chloe has been showing off for a while now that she's going to take the college entrance exam. You didn't know? We're all in the same district. If she's not using your spot, whose else could she be using?" Emily's heart suddenly clenched. She immediately rushed out of the hospital and hurried back home. When she found David, he was with his friends, throwing a celebratory send-off party for Chloe's upcoming exam. Seeing Emily arrive, everyone's faces fell with displeasure. "What gave you the right to give my exam spot to her?" Emily demanded, fighting hard to suppress her anger. "She deserves to go to college more than you do," David replied. His gaze fell upon her bulging, pregnant belly. "You just need to focus on your pregnancy, take care of the child, and be a good mother. Going to college isn't something you should be thinking about. I earned that spot with my own test scores. You have no right to give it away." "I am your husband," David retorted coldly. "Of course I have the right." He stood up, opened the door, and forcefully pushed her out. "While I still have some patience left, don't come out here and embarrass yourself again." The door slammed shut, and the room returned to cheerful laughter and chatter. In her previous life, although she had only attended an ordinary college, she had earned the favor of her superiors and enjoyed a smooth career path thanks to her degree and solid professional skills. Because of that, in this life, David was willing to go as far as stealing to give the college entrance exam spot to Chloe. Emily let out a miserable laugh. Carrying her heavy pregnant belly, she went to see the commander. "This is my divorce application," she said, handing him a piece of paper. "I want to divorce David." On the application, her and David's names were already signed. She had tricked him into signing it when he wasn't paying attention. She had originally planned to bring it up after the exam and after giving birth to their daughter, but he had already exhausted every last ounce of her patience. "You're about to give birth and you're asking for a divorce?" The commander looked deeply displeased. Couples bicker all the time, but they always make up in the end. What does it look like, demanding a divorce with a belly that big? "Even if I approve it, the higher-ups won't." Emily shook her head. "I have to get this divorce. He's giving my college exam spot to Chloe." The commander froze for a moment, then let out a deep sigh. "This is outrageous," he said through gritted teeth. "You go back and prepare for your exam first. As for your situation with David, I will report it to my superiors immediately. If what you say is true, I will make sure you get this divorce." After thanking him, Emily left the room. With things as they were, all she could do was wait. On the day of the college entrance exam, she gathered her admission ticket and pens and arrived at the testing center. "What are you doing here?" Outside the testing center, David, who had come to accompany Chloe for her exam, looked at her in absolute shock. "Didn't I tell you a long time ago that you didn't need to come?" Emily calmly pulled out her admission ticket. "My admission ticket is real. Hers is fake." She pointed at Chloe. "She has absolutely no right to enter the testing center." Chloe, holding the fake ticket, turned pale. She had never expected that Emily would create a forged admission ticket and deliberately let David steal it to give to her. "You're framing me," she cried, both anxious and furious. Her eyes darted toward Emily's pregnant belly. Catching Emily off guard, Chloe violently shoved her to the ground. Losing her balance, Emily fell heavily onto the floor. "Ah, she's going into labor," Chloe deliberately shrieked. Hurry, get her to the hospital. No, I'm fine. Seeing the crowd quickly gathering around, Emily panicked. Although the fall hurt terribly, her daughter was perfectly safe inside her belly. There were no signs of premature labor whatsoever. David pushed his way through the crowd with a cold expression and held Emily tightly in his arms. I'm her husband. She really is going into labor. I'm taking her to the hospital immediately for a C-section. As long as they took her to the hospital, she would definitely miss today's exam. Guessing their intentions, Emily felt profoundly disgusted. No, I'm fine. I can take the test. She struggled with all her might. Emily, stop trying to be brave, Chloe said, forcefully snatching Emily's admission ticket away, her eyes brimming with smugness. Having the baby is what's important. As for the exam, let me take it for you. We shouldn't waste the spot. With that, she immediately gave David a meaningful look. Understanding her cue, David scooped Emily up by the waist. Ignoring her struggles, he shoved her into the car. Have the obstetrics department schedule surgery right away, he ordered. Make absolutely sure my wife gives birth today. He couldn't afford to wait. Locked in his embrace, Emily could only desperately pound on the car window for help, but no one came to her rescue. Chloe deliberately walked up to the window and waved Emily's admission ticket. Emily, just wait for the good news of my acceptance. With that, Chloe swayed her hips and walked toward the testing center. Emily frantically pounded on the car window, screaming for help. David simply clamped his hand over her mouth. The car engine started, carrying her toward the hospital. Along the way, David's brows smoothed out. Did you really think you could compete with Chloe? He said through gritted teeth. Emily, this is what you owe her. You have to give it to her. Suddenly, another car swerved and blocked the road ahead. The driver slammed on the brakes. Several commanders stepped out of the vehicle, their faces livid. They pulled the car doors open and glared at David. Let's see who dares to steal her exam spot, one of them shouted. Let Emily go in and take the exam immediately. David froze for a moment. Once he recovered, his expression remained perfectly calm. But she's going into labor, David declared self-righteously. Compared to an exam, having a baby is far more important. As Emily's husband, I must protect her and the baby. As for the college entrance exam qualification, I have the right to pass it on to someone who needs it more on her behalf. Actually, Chloe was the one who was supposed to take the exam in the first place. She just underperformed back then, which allowed Emily to exploit a loophole. The commanders were utterly astounded by his shamelessness. Get your facts straight, they yelled anxiously. You are no longer Emily's husband. They pulled out the divorce application, stamped with the official red seal. From this moment on, Emily and the child in her womb have absolutely nothing to do with you. If you dare to try anything else, I'll send you back to the base for disciplinary action right now. Commander Smith, his direct superior, snapped, having reached the end of his tolerance. Send Emily back to the testing center immediately. She said she can take the test. There's no need for your blind meddling. David's expression froze on his face. After glancing at the agreement, he looked down at Emily with a condescending glare. Have you had enough of this tantrum? He gritted his teeth. Finding a random piece of paper, scribbling a few words, and stamping a fake red seal to pass it off as an application, did you really think I would believe this? Emily, you are 7 months pregnant. No one in their right mind would ever agree to let you divorce me. Besides, I am the father of the child in your belly. Do you really think a piece of trash paper can sever the blood tie between me and my child? David snatched the application and nonchalantly tossed it out the car window. I'm sorry, Commander Smith. My wife is being too stubborn and causing trouble for you all, he said calmly. Once the baby is born, I'll have her write and sign a self-reflection letter. I don't know what methods she used to convince you all to put on this act with her, but I won't believe a single word of her lies. Not only did David refuse to let go, but he also pinned Emily firmly down in the car, urging the driver to start the engine immediately and take her to the hospital. Let me go. I've already divorced you, Emily screamed, on the verge of a breakdown. Using every ounce of her strength, she broke free from David's grip and slapped him across the face without hesitation. Smack! David was stunned by the blow. Ever since marrying him, she had loved him deeply and accommodated him at every turn. She had never once defied him, couldn't even bear to speak a harsh word to him, let alone strike him. Taking advantage of his shock, Emily quickly pulled the car door open, stepped out, and picked up the divorce application he had thrown away. She shoved it right in front of his face. See for yourself if it's real or fake. David's brows furrowed tightly as he reluctantly took the application. After reading it thoroughly, his face changed completely. Once he clearly saw the bright red official seal stamped by the higher-ups, his breathing became rapid and his hands trembled uncontrollably. No, impossible. He stared at her with wide eyes. You forged this. I never said I wanted to divorce you. Do you think I have the ability to forge an official seal? Emily laughed out of sheer anger. You're allowed to use underhanded tricks to let Chloe take my place in the college entrance exam, but I am not allowed to find a chance to make you sign the application, Emily retorted. You schemed against me just to get a divorce? David was in absolute disbelief. He never imagined that she would initiate a divorce. After all, in their previous life, she had loved him so deeply, that even when he took her to die with him, she had trusted him without a doubt. We can talk about this later, Commander Smith said, glancing at his watch. The exam is about to start. Getting Emily to the testing center is the priority. He ushered her into the car, and they immediately rushed toward the testing center. Unwilling to give up, David followed closely behind. Upon arriving at the testing center, Emily relied on her memory to find the examination room. Chloe was already sitting in her seat, cheerfully observing the surrounding candidates. Without an admission ticket, Emily wasn't allowed to enter. Commander Smith flashed his credentials and hurried inside. Seeing him, Chloe's eyes lit up. Commander Smith? She stood up, beaming with a smile. You must be here to cheer me on, right? I'll definitely do my best and bring honor to the military family compound. The curious and envious gazes of the people around fell upon her, making Chloe even more smug. Commander Smith's face darkened, his hands clenching into fists. I've seen shameless people before, but I've never seen anyone as shameless as you. He scolded loud. You stole someone else's admission ticket, yet you still have the nerve to sit here? Get the hell out of here right now. Chloe was startled, but her hands clung to the desk as if they were glued, refusing to leave. I didn't steal the admission ticket, she cried, biting her lower lip and looking deeply aggrieved. David gave Emily's spot to me. She suddenly went into labor, and there was nothing I could do. I was just being kind, afraid the spot would go to waste. How can you say I stole it? She sobbed. It's clearly Emily's own fault for not holding up. What does it have to do with me? Commander Smith wasn't buying it. Without a second thought, he grabbed Chloe by her braids and dragged her to the door. Pointing at Emily's belly, he said, Take a good look. See for yourself whether Emily can take the exam or not. Chloe looked up, and her eyes met Emily's bulging stomach. Then her gaze traveled higher, meeting Emily's perfectly calm expression. I clearly pushed you. How are you? Chloe blurted out. She had assumed that pushing Emily down would trigger a premature birth. But Emily's daughter was perfectly safe inside her belly. A simple fall wasn't nearly enough to cause a miscarriage. Hand over the admission ticket, Commander Smith ordered. If you hand it over honestly right now, I might let this slide for the time being. Chloe gritted her teeth, her eyes full of resentment. But David already gave me the spot. He said that even though it was Emily's spot, since he is her husband, he has the right to give it away. It's perfectly justified for me to take this exam. That David, having such a good wife, but taking an outsider's side, Commander Smith cursed under his breath. He then showed Emily's divorce application to Chloe. Instantly, Chloe's face turned completely pale. Emily is already divorced from David, Commander Smith stated coldly. He has no right to give her admission ticket to you. When I said you stole it, was I wronging you? Take out the admission ticket right now. Chloe's hatred-filled gaze shot toward Emily like needles, and she stubbornly refused to hand over the ticket. David, you're the only one who can help me now, she cried, looking at David, who had just hurried over. During the preliminary exams, Emily clearly cheated to get first place. Otherwise, how could a village woman like her possibly score better than me? I originally wanted to save her face and not pursue the matter, but she's bullying me. I really can't stand it anymore. She wept beautifully, looking incredibly pitiful. David's anger was instantly ignited. He stepped forward and firmly blocked the entrance to the examination room, resolutely refusing to let Emily inside. Emily, if you had a conscience, you would voluntarily give up your college entrance exam qualification, David said angrily. I've suspected for a long time that your scores were fake. Otherwise, with your abilities, how could you possibly place first? The only reason you weren't exposed back then was because Chloe was kind. Do you really want to keep making mistakes and ruin her life? He glared at Emily, looking as if he wished he could kill her with his gaze. He never doubted a single word, Chloe said. Now that the misunderstanding is cleared up, I can go in, right? Chloe asked. Looking incredibly pitiful, her eyes were nonetheless filled with immense smugness. It's my fault for not properly advising Emily back then, which led her to do something as foolish as cheating. I let her down, she persuaded softly. David, please don't blame Emily. She's still pregnant. Be careful not to upset the baby. David showed profound disgust. A woman who loves to cheat. If I had a choice, I would rather she not be the mother of my child. Emily's heart suddenly stung with sharp pain. The baby tumbled restlessly in her belly. It seemed her daughter didn't like her current father either. Fortunately, he was no longer the father of her child. Enough with this nonsense. Commander Smith cursed, pointing right at Chloe's nose. Do you really think the proctors are blind? You were the one who clearly cheated back then. If it wasn't for giving you face because you are a doctor, you would have been kicked out of the examination room long ago. Did you think no one saw you trying to cheat your way to a perfect score? In fact, your scores were already cancelled. You're just full of yourself. His voice was loud, echoing clearly down the entire corridor. Everyone looked at Chloe with strange, judging gazes. Pale-faced, she threw herself onto David. No, it's not true, she explained through her tears. I didn't cheat. You have to believe me. This is Emily's trap. You can't believe them. Tell me the truth first. Did you cheat or not? A flicker of doubt flashed through David's eyes. Chloe shrieked like a rat whose tail had been stepped on. What do you mean? You don't believe me either? I said I didn't cheat, and you're still asking me for the truth? She cried and screamed like a madwoman, blaming everyone for targeting her. Unable to watch this any longer, Commander Smith called over a few female officers to hold Chloe down, retrieved the admission ticket from her, and handed it to Emily. With only 10 minutes left until the exam, Emily was in no mood to watch Chloe's performance. She took the admission ticket and prepared to enter the room. Emily! Suddenly, Chloe charged over like a lunatic to snatch the admission ticket. Go to hell. Before Emily could even react, Chloe violently shoved her forward. Emily stumbled down the steps and fell hard onto the ground. Emily! David was the first to react, rushing to her side. He carefully helped her up. Where does it hurt? I'm taking you to the hospital right now. Emily imperceptibly pushed him away and reached out to touch her arm. A layer of skin had been scraped off, stinging with a burning pain. Fortunately, it was just a scrape. Her daughter was still resting safely inside her belly, showing no rush to come out. I'm fine, Emily said calmly. The exam is what's important. Let me go in first. Chloe, who had thought her scheme succeeded, was dumbfounded. Why won't you just die? She spat out recklessly in her exasperation. I pushed you twice and you're still fine. You should have died in that fire. Supporting Emily as she stood up, David's body suddenly trembled violently. He looked at Chloe in sheer shock. In his mind, she had always been a gentle, mild, and perfect woman who never even spoke a harsh word. She was like a delicate flower that needed care and sympathy. He had idealized her for 20 whole years. It wasn't until now that he finally realized Chloe might not be as perfect as he imagined. A woman who was a doctor was recklessly cursing Emily to die. She was actually hoping that Emily and her unborn child would both die. Standing in the courtyard, David couldn't recover his senses for a long time. Emily couldn't be bothered to pay attention to him. She took her recovered admission ticket and walked into the examination room. With the accumulated knowledge from her past life, she answered the test questions with ease. The first day of the exam ended smoothly. Supporting her lower back, Emily walked out of the testing center and immediately spotted David standing in the crowd. He was tall and handsome, and with his excellent physique built from daily military training, it was hard not to notice him. She averted her gaze and chose to ignore him. However, he took the initiative to run over and handed her a bag of old-fashioned bread. In her previous life, during the later stages of her pregnancy, she couldn't keep anything down and could only tolerate the taste of this specific bread. To her surprise, he actually remembered. Come home with me, he pleaded softly. Chloe admitted it. She did cheat on the exam. I'm sorry about the admission ticket. She told me she wanted to go to college, and because I wanted to compensate her for being trapped in that fire, I thought about giving your spot to her. Emily laughed out loud when she heard this. Because he had refused to save her first, she still had ugly burn scars on her legs that would never heal for the rest of her life. If she hadn't risked her life to dash out, she would have been burned to ashes by now. Yet, Chloe had only sprained her ankle. He had clearly saved Chloe's life, yet he somehow still believed he owed her a lifetime of happiness. I know you were just acting on impulse when you asked for a divorce. David's tone softened. The baby needs a father. Stop being mad at me. Let's go home. From now on, I'll take care of the baby with you. The three of us will live our lives well. David, Emily interrupted him. That's impossible now. After the college entrance exam, I'm taking the baby and leaving. She told him she would go home tonight to pack her luggage and leave tomorrow. The commander had already found her a job in the neighboring city. Although it was an unofficial position, considering she was pregnant and couldn't do heavy manual labor, she was already very satisfied just to have a job. Do you really have to be this ruthless? David's brows furrowed. You're pregnant and about to give birth. What will you do if you have a difficult labor and I'm not there with you? Being stubborn will only hurt you in the end. It has nothing to do with you, Emily laughed. I've already divorced you. Having you in the delivery room with me is no different from having any other man there." David's breathing hitched, and his hands unconsciously clenched into fists. He wanted to retort but couldn't find a suitable reason. With the divorce application approved, he was indeed no longer her legitimate husband. Also, Emily gently stroked her lower abdomen. "After our daughter is born, I won't tell her you're her father. It will just be the two of us relying on each other. She will never acknowledge you as a father." David finally panicked. His handsome eyes instantly filled with bloodshot veins. "I won't allow it," he threatened in a hoarse voice. "Emily, don't go too far. I'm going to apply for remarriage tomorrow. Do you really think you can get away?" He was very confident. He believed that as long as he took the initiative to give her a way out and applied for remarriage, she would half-heartedly agree to his choice. After all, she had been completely obedient to him for 20 years in their past life. He couldn't even fathom that she had the courage to leave him. Emily didn't try to stop him. She silently finished packing her bags. The next day, after the exams ended, she immediately boarded a bus to the neighboring city and settled into the single apartment that had been arranged for her. Life without David's interference was relaxed and free. "Is Emily here?" "You have a phone call," a coworker called out. "It's your commander calling. Hurry up and answer. It's Commander Smith." Commander Smith's voice came through the receiver loud and clear. "Come back quickly. The scores are out. The county officials are coming to visit you and give you a bonus." "Okay, I'll be right back," Emily hurriedly agreed. Although she knew she would do well, seeing her dream actually come true right before her eyes made it impossible to contain her immense joy. Carrying her 8-month pregnant belly, Emily returned to the military family compound. David was already waiting at the entrance early on. Having not seen each other for half a month, he looked surprisingly haggard. The moment he saw her, his eyes lit up. "Be careful," he said, rushing over to support her. "Your body is what's most important." "Thank you," Emily nodded in gratitude, her body silently pulling away to put some distance between them. David's eyes dimmed. Every time he tried to touch her, she would casually dodge it. Realizing that she truly didn't want any contact with him, he smiled bitterly. "Emily, you are truly amazing," Commander Smith's voice boomed. She looked over and saw him running toward her with his subordinates. "You're the top scorer in our area, and third in the entire state. No one in our compound even comes close to you." Emily had thought her scores would be good, but she never expected to rank third in the entire state. "Hurry and come with me to the reception room." "The state officials are all here," Commander Smith said, smiling from ear to ear. "Hearing that you're an independent candidate who scored third place while pregnant, they're all fighting to meet you." Thank goodness we didn't let Chloe sneak in back then. Otherwise, with her abilities, let alone third place, she wouldn't even make it to the 3,000th place. When Emily was in the neighboring city, she occasionally ran into neighbors from the compound who were there on official business. From them, she learned about what had happened to Chloe. After being caught cheating, Chloe refused to repent, insisting she had been framed. Commander Smith had no choice but to make her take the exam questions again, arranging for 3 people to proctor her. As a result, Chloe only scored 20 points, not even qualifying for the top 10. After her lies were exposed, she sought David to back her up. But David had finally seen her true colors. He transferred her away from his side and forbade her from coming near him. Unable to accept reality, Chloe went mad. She spent her days complaining on the streets, cursing Emily for stealing her diploma and her man, and screaming her hatred over why Emily hadn't died sooner. Over time, everyone found out about her ambiguous relationship with David. To save face, he sent her directly to a newly opened psychiatric hospital. His beautiful 20-year fantasy had crumbled instantly in the face of reality. As for Emily, she embarked on a completely different path. Because she scored so well, the county and the city each gave her a monetary bonus, and the state also awarded her a special prize. Several top universities came to negotiate terms, competing to get her to enroll at their schools. Ultimately, she chose Harvard, which offered to provide her with a private dorm room so she could properly take care of her daughter without any worries. Once everything was settled, she immediately boarded the train, heading east. There, she safely gave birth to her daughter, Lily. Due to postpartum weakness, she had to stay in the hospital to rest and recuperate. Fortunately, unlike her previous life, she didn't experience a difficult labor that brought her to the brink of death. "There's been a weirdo around here lately," her caregiver told her mysteriously one day. "You need to be careful. He might be a child snatcher." Emily instantly tensed up and asked her to explain clearly. The caregiver looked back and pointed out the window. "Sometimes I see a person standing outside the window, a young man, very handsome and well-dressed. But he just stares at the baby without moving. He doesn't look at any other babies, only ours. Don't you think that's weird? Could it be that he sees you're a single mother with a baby and thinks you're an easy target?" Planning to steal the baby, perhaps? We have to be on guard. Emily understood clearly in her heart. The person the caregiver mentioned was very likely David. The next night, Emily deliberately stayed awake. Sure enough, she saw David peeking through the window. He was scruffy with heavy dark circles under his eyes. If she hadn't been so deeply familiar with him, she probably wouldn't have recognized him at first glance. He looked at their sleeping daughter, a satisfied smile appearing on his face. After he had looked at Lily long enough, he turned his head to look at Emily. Caught off guard by suddenly meeting her eyes, his first instinct was to run. Emily tapped on the window. "Don't run," she called out. "If you want to look, just come inside." David stood frozen in place for a long time. Unable to overcome his yearning for his family, he tiptoed inside. Looking at his daughter, his eyes grew red-rimmed. "Is her name Lily?" he asked. Emily realized that he finally knew she had also been reborn. Otherwise, he wouldn't have known their daughter's name was Lily for no apparent reason. "Her first name is Lily, and her full name is Lily Evans," Emily said. "It's the name I chose for her. She'll definitely love it when she grows up." Standing in front of the crib, David was completely at a loss for what to do. Emily had fulfilled her promise. In this life, their daughter didn't take his last name. Instead, she took Emily's maiden name, Evans. He gazed at her for a long time, without saying another word, then turned and walked away. He understood that he had lost Emily and their daughter forever.
What an ending! David's regret is too little, too late. Emily proved that your future is in your own hands. Never depend on anyone else for your happiness. What did you think of her choice?